Welcome to the Numerology and the Astrology for April 28th, 2020. So those of you that are in Salt Lake City, Utah, you know that I come to Salt Lake City pretty regularly, and I was supposed to be there May 2nd through the 24th, but I have temporarily postponed that trip because of the coronavirus, and I will probably try to do it in June and shift the schedule around a little bit. So I wanted to put that out there on Facebook and the blog and everything like that, so that you kind of know that I'm not coming to Salt Lake at the moment, but I hope to be in Salt Lake very shortly. Okay, now, if you add all of those numbers together for 2020, you get an 18. If you add 1 and 8 together, you get a 9. And the 9 is the number of empathy, creativity, intuition, the right brain, mysticism, magic, the high priestess, the duality of the high priestess, so meaning that Isis and Nephthys, the light goddess, the fertility goddess, and the death goddess. It goes both ways, actually. Most of the time we translate it through the lighter side, but if you look at a lot of the ancient myths, you'll notice that even the fertility goddesses like Isis go through some sort of dark night of the soul where they actually have to be reborn, and they kind of go into the depths of hell, and they have to lose parts of their identity in order to transcend or to release themselves from the dark energies or the underworld, and then they reascend, and then when they reascend, they're up in heaven, but they're never really quite the same. And so to me, this is the dance of the feminine. There's a great book that I loved, that there are 3 books actually by this author, and they're easy to find. They're called He, She, and We. And they're 3 different books. They're small little books, and they're by a man that's a psychologist, and I can't remember his name right this second, but I read these like 40 years ago, and they were profound for me. They were absolutely profound. It explained male psychology in a way that I had never perceived of, and then the She book explained aspects of the feminine process, the emotional, intense feminine process that I also had not really seen as clearly as I see now. And so I highly recommend those books because they're short, they're not very thick, they're like 90 pages, they're easy to read. And you might get some real insight. I got some great insight about masculine and feminine typologies. So in the dance of the feminine typologies, the feminine has a tendency to take on a challenge that's bigger than she can do, recognize that she has bitten off more than she can chew, realize that she is incapable of completing the task as it was given to her, and she, for a moment, collapses. And when she collapses, she falls apart and cries, and every woman totally relates to this right now about the drama that we confront within ourselves all the time. And then after she's cried it all out, she decides to get clever, which is why women, of course, are known as a little bit sneaky and a little bit manipulative, because we don't have the physical strength of a man, and yet we've got a type of cleverness that we can use to our advantage. So then we will create an illusion of an accomplishment, and it's amazing how people will buy it, and then you get the reward, and then everybody finds out later, of course, that you kind of fudged it a little bit. But that's sort of the nature of how the feminine works. And so I want all the women out there to look at the 2 sides of their nature. So the light Isis goddess energy and the dark Isis goddess energy, or Nephthys, and come to friendship with both of those sides, because I find that, you know, intuition is not always fairy tales and fluff puppies. Intuition can be dark, and you can notice things that you definitely don't want to notice, and you need to notice those things. You need to be aware that those things are actually very real. And you need to not overreact to them, but you need to pay attention. So, How do you know something if it's intuitive or if it's your mind? Well, first of all, if it sounds like something you've heard before over and over again, or it sounds like something someone else has said over and over again, that's probably not intuition. Because intuition comes in as this sudden, like, whoa, really? Like, holy cow, whoa, you know, like it's sort of a startled, like something you'd never thought of before, something that suddenly popped in out of the ethers and suddenly makes sense of a complex puzzle that you hadn't been able to figure out. So today, creativity and intuition are heightened, but there's the light and the dark side. And there's a drive to move things towards a state of completion, but you feel like maybe you're not up to the task. And so then what do? You basically slow down, cry, regroup, retrace some steps, figure something else out, and figure out what you need to do. So, you know, I love the metaphor. Sometimes my life is sort of weird. Like I look at my life as this constant game of metaphors that the universe is teaching me. So at the moment, my husband and I are redoing some steps of an old building, and the steps were completely rotted out. This building's probably been there 100 years. And not only are the steps rotted out, but the support beams underneath are rotted out. So it's this major event of crawling under a building in order to, you know, figure out how to brace it, how to lift it up, how to stabilize the floor, and all that kind of thing. So I know that all of you have many things that are keeping you busy at the moment, and you're feeling a bit overwhelmed. And so just like me doing these steps, I think it's funny that, you know, the metaphor I'm looking at for myself is I have steps that I have to make and create, but the old ones are rotted out. And I love that metaphor for the world right now. We have steps we have to take, and they're completely rotted out, and we have to completely tear it out, and we have to own the fact that it's completely rotted underneath, and nothing is holding this floor together, and we are going to have to stabilize the floor of our world, our universe, our government, our life, personally, metaphorically, spiritually, right? Because we are not feeling supported underneath, and we feel like we're walking on something that the floor could give out at any moment. So it's overwhelming. It overwhelmed me. I mean, I'm sitting there looking at the steps going, what the hell are we going to do? Like, how are we going to fix this? Maybe we should just tear the building down, right? And my husband was like, no, we're going to, you know, we're going to fix the steps. So, you know, notice how many things in your life feel overwhelming. And notice how many things in your life you just want to tear down, like me, and just completely start over. And maybe we need to rebuild the floor. Maybe we need to rebuild the steps. Maybe we need to find some support beams inside of ourselves. And I know that completing house projects is always this major event, so it never goes as smoothly or as quickly as you think it's going to. So my joke is that everything will take 3 times longer than I personally think it should take, right? And it teaches you a lot of patience, and so I think that's also with the world. However long you think this is going to take, it's going to probably take 3 times longer in order to complete it. So today is not about completing the entire thing. Today is the day where you notice that to get to that completion, it's going to take a great deal of patience and attention to detail. And the completion today might be just having a plan. That's what I came up with. So, you know, okay, this is how we're going to do it, right? So now we've torn it all out. We know how bad it is, but this is how we're going to do it. These are the steps we're going to take. And no, it's not done. And yes, it's going to take longer than I think. But I want it done right the first time, because if you put the effort in when you need to put the effort in, then it doesn't fall apart a year later, and then you have to redo it again to the tune of more money, right? So there's all these things that you kind of have to do at the same time. So, you know, if you do it right, you don't have to redo it, and you have a stronger and a deeper sense of pride. Okay, the astrology for today. Tuesday has Mercury challenging Saturn, which can manifest either as suspicious, resentment, stubbornness and failures, or it can make you feel tired. So no matter what you do, you need to get grounded and stay grounded and keep your ideas and communications in a very practical mindset. The moon is in comforting and homey Cancer, but it is sextile to Uranus. And so one part wants to tuck into a soft bed and another wants that bed to be in an exotic place, swinging from the rafters on a beach. And so I know we have coronavirus, and I know this is not like Corona land, so with the, the lime and the coconut and drink it all up. So I'm afraid travel plans are still going to be a bit delayed. So you have to do some things that make you happy. The sun is in Taurus, sextile the moon in Cancer, and this is all about being kind and treating others equally. There is a desire to make work seem more homey and comforting, and you want to help each other and enjoy the camaraderie, even if it's short-lived. So overall, today, there's sort of a seriousness that needs to be addressed. There are problems that need to be fixed. There are restrictions that are in place, and you have to make choices in order to get it finished, and those feel complicated. Your mind might feel as if it wants to be in a rut. And as we get towards the end of the month, then Mercury aligns with innovative Uranus, and this will help you support new ideas and have a better gung-ho entrepreneurial spirit and give you a desire to try something new. All right, my quote for today. The birds look around. Where did the humans go? We can hear our own voices as we sing and crow. Those noisy ones have gone away. It would be nice if it continued this way. We have a moment to calm down and just be. We have a moment when nature is free. We see them peek out of the windows to see. They watch us now as we sit in the tree. Okay, so my blog for today, another story from my childhood. When I was a child, I had one of those imaginary friends, but to me, he was very real and very alive. He was Asian, shorter than a normal American, and I saw him from the time I was about 2 until I was about 7 years old. And my mother remembers me talking to someone in the backyard and singing songs in a foreign language that sounded very Chinese or Japanese. I believe now that he was a guardian angel or guide. He was kind, funny, playful, supportive, and helped me not feel alone because at that time I had intruded into my older sister's reality, and she had not gotten over being angry and wishing that I had never shown up in her life. I know that this guide was not some dead ghost person because there was no scary feeling about him or around him. And somehow as a child, I always knew the difference between someone who was dead and wandering around trying to complete their own karma and actually a guide or an angel. They resonated differently. They vibrated differently. And as I said, we used to sing songs together, and I distinctly remember that he would change the words around and make them into something funny while keeping the musical notes intact. And I would laugh, and I would tell him that he had changed the words again, and we would continue to play on words with the songs. And many of the songs have disappeared from my memory, but my mother distinctly remembers hearing them and wishing she'd had a tape recorder. And I wish also that she would have managed to record them. But I have one song that remains, and it's a simple song. It's nothing special, I thought. So many years later, when I was in my mid-30s, I met a client that was Japanese American, and for some reason, I felt compelled to tell him my childhood story. And I sang him the song, and he said that he did not know what it was, but that we should call his grandmother, and maybe she would know. So we did, and I sang her the song over the phone. And she told me that the first part of the song was correct, and it was a Japanese song. It was actually a famous Japanese song about the cherry blossoms blooming in Japan. And she said the second part of the song was in the right sequence of tones for the song, but it was actually in a dialect. And it was Japanese, but it was clearly a very old dialect. And she said that because the song started correctly, she assumed it was the song in that dialect because the music continued. And I was stunned. I mean, I did not know Japanese when I was 2. And I knew I did not know some old dialect of Japanese either. And I find such things make your head hurt and spin sort of at the same time. And rationally, you cannot make sense out of them, but yet there they are. An anomaly in a world of logic. And I believe that all the words we speak move energetically into the very air we breathe. I believe that some are sensitive to that energy as it mixes and merges with all the great wisdom that has existed in this world. Perhaps that is why they say that it has all been said before, that all we are doing is remixing and shifting all the things that have ever been sung, spoken, and communicated from our own personal vantage point. What that also means to me is that the great ideas, philosophies, teachings, and truths are all out there for you to grasp if you are willing and able to do it. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening. Again, I'm not going to be in Salt Lake May 2nd through 24th, but I will probably be in Salt Lake in June. So stay tuned. Thank you so much. Bye.